Salutations, Utopians. Hope all is well in your world. Global here. Got to watch that Game 7 today from the Los Angeles Clippers between the Denver Nuggets. Caught a little bit of boxing after that. A little disappointed in the Canelo match with Skull, but there was good news. Bud Crawford will be challenging Canelo in September 12th. I'm not sure what belts are on the line quite yet, but I'm sure it'll be a much improved fight than what it was displayed today by Brock, from boxing, and yeah, the state of boxing needs a lot of work. I want to talk about the Denver Nuggets and Clippers tonight, but I want to first catch up with the Detroit Pistons. I didn't get to do a video on that. Um, so first, let's talk about them, and I'll make another separate video right after. Detroit, congratulations to them. 30-win improvement. JB Bickerstaff, son of the veteran OG Bickerstaff of the Charlotte Bobcats, formerly of the Charlotte Bobcats, now known as the Hornets, was terminated last year off of his second round appearance campaign with the Cleveland Cavaliers, who lost to the Boston Celtics without Jared Allen, same Boston Celtics team that went on to win a championship. There was obviously discourse about a disconnect in the locker room between their star point guard, Darius Garland, and the real megastar of the team, Donovan Mitchell. Furthermore, there was a little bit of frustrations with Evan Mobley not playing to his full potential and leaving a lot to be desired. And so he was fired despite a winning campaign and went to Detroit immediately, where he was able to begin a restoration progress with a franchise that had the worst record in the history of its existence, rich history of existence. And with Monty Williams, I think they only won 17 or 13 games. There was a lot of questionable decisions being made with respect to personnel. You see Killian Hayes getting minutes over Jaden Ivey, one of the, if not the most explosive player in the NBA, and just absolutely lethal first step. I mean, he's up there with some of the most athletic 6-foot guards, 6'3" guards to ever grace the game. Steve Francis, Baron Davis, you name them. One of the most explosive small guys we've ever seen, like a reincarnated Westbrook or Derrick Rose. And that kind of category, prime Eric Bledsoe. If you watch Eric Bledsoe when he was a backup with the Clippers, you know what I'm talking about. And I think Bledsoe was an Olympian, in fact. And so that's who my NBA comp is to Jaden Ivey. And so, their season was abysmal. And then you have a 30-win turnaround as soon as JB Bickerstaff steps in the door. Second half of the year, the emergence of Jalen Duran was, to me, probably one of his greatest accomplishments. Also, the emergence of Tobias Harris. That was not the emergence. Well, yeah, you can call it the emergence. That was the best we ever seen from Tobias. Okay, that was the best performance. That was the best and most he's ever looked at home anywhere. Now, it does help that he has bloodlines to the Tuskegee group. His father was a Tuskegee Airman, and you know the history between Detroit and that. So he was naturally already with an added incentive. Tim Hardaway Jr., playing for Detroit, went to Michigan. Another phenomenal addition. Michael Beasley, who practically won the three-pointers made in a season, well over 300, joining the elite company of Steph and Clay in a season, and Anthony Edwards. I think James Harden is only 5, I believe, and James Harden rounds it out to 5 for 300 three-pointers in a season. True NBA royalty. Unbelievable year for Michael Beasley, who I told everyone, this is a guy who, when he left Milwaukee, I'm like, this guy, he showed a lot of promise. It's not easy to play quality basketball when you're amongst chaos, and he did the best he could. Him and Timmy did not shoot particularly well in the postseason versus the Knicks, and the Knicks did have a lot of help from outside resources. It's as far as I'm willing to take it in terms of if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. But ultimately, at the end of the day, no Jaden Ivey, who's a 20-point scorer and was improving his 3-point shooting, which would have made him a very cerebral 3-level scorer, paired with Stewart, who's a physical, and y'all know how much, if you pay attention to how I talk about hoops, physicality is a metrics that can't be quantified, and Stewart is an elite class of bigs who can play that physical old school Detroit basketball and can still knock down all the way out to the 3-point line. I have faith that Ivy's going to be a 40%er eventually from 3-point line. Stewart is a mid 30s kind of guy capable of doing that consistently. And, he's not afraid to mix it up. He's like that old school Anthony Mason, Charles Oakley type. He represents a certain brand of basketball. And so JB Bickerstaff took all that together, pieced it together, despite Kenny Atkinson, who I was a huge fan of, and I even said I think he deserves to go to Cleveland. And since they already had Jared Allen and at the time Karis LeVert, who they eventually moved off the trade deadline to get DeAndre Hunter, but there was so much familiarity, and then from the Brooklyn run and Jared Allen, there's so much invested in him that it's too hard to just move off him. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like how Cleveland was so awarded by the NBA. First of all, Evan Mobley getting Defensive Player of the Year over Dyson Daniels didn't seem right to me. Dyson Daniels had as many blocks as Draymond, and Land, who was finished as a top 3 contestant in the DPOY conversation candidate, but also had way more steals than everybody else. I'm talking Gary Payton, Scottie Pippen records. And so I didn't understand that. I didn't like that. Not to mention when you have an athletic rim protector like Jared Allen, very fluid, massive wingspan, well over 7'5" on the wingspan, if I'm not mistaken, and athletic, that helps a lot to be able to do your job. Obviously, Garland's a little bit of a liability, so having a guy like Mobley, but when you have twin towers to assign a decoy to one guy and over the other, I felt like if anything, he should have got most improved, and Dyson Daniels was supposed to be Defensive Player of the Year. Instead, it was backwards. And then Kenny Atkinson being named Coach of the Year, I think they should have just stayed neutral. Yes, they had the record. OKC had a larger point differential, but I think Daigneault won last year, and so this year they gave it to Kenny Atkinson. But really, Daigneault, it could have went to him again for the differential record they broke, or anyone else for that matter. I mean, there's been some amazing jobs this year. I mean, Chris Finch willing the Wolves into the playoffs. After surviving that terrible road schedule first half of the year, fresh off of that blockbuster trade of their 10-year star Karl Anthony Towns, there was a lot of different ways they could have went. Long story short, and I just felt like the NBA should have remained neutral, and in fact just kind of not got involved. But JB Bickerstaff did a phenomenal job with this team, and as far as what the Pistons should do moving forward, well, before I get to that, well, no, it actually all fits together, meshes well together. There's been a lot of discourse about Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham, can they coexist? I think him getting injured was, and I hate to discuss career-threatening injuries in a light of as a stroke of good fortune, but to make a positive out of something that could be deemed as something very harmful. It really allowed Cade to get that itch out of him in terms of like, oh, I have to be the guy. And if there ever was any of that confusion, now fans of the Pistons or just outside fans who view the Pistons can see now that he needs more firepower if they're going to be a threat. And Jaden Ivey is just that. And, for the aforementioned reasons that I had previously stated. And so for me, it's like watching what Detroit is doing. It's like they don't really got to go out and add anybody. I know in a perfect world, you would want to go pick up, a stretch four or Jared Collins or something like that, a guy who can get you more buckets. But their core nucleus, I think Cleveland has set the blueprint. You got a young team, you let them grow together for better or worse, and you get what you get. And I think sometimes that chemistry of being together for so long can be the uh, mitigating factor that could really push a team, propel a team over another team who might be more talented on paper, but they don't have that cohesion, they don't have that family comfort that a team that's been together for years might have. And so that's why I'd say, Detroit has no urgency or requirement to go out and make any major decisions. I know Shams might have some big news for people in June, but I don't feel like there's any kind of um, need or necessity that they need to address. If anything, they might have too much depth with Schroeder, with Cunningham, with Ivy, with uh, Beasley, Hardaway Jr., Ron Hollins is going to have to find minutes. You know, I don't know if there's a sense of urgency to continue to immediately go out and find more talent. I think they just need to continue to gel. Jalen Duran improvement in the second half of the season was so important and so crucial to their development and honestly as a unit. And that was the big key, I think, that changed everything. He really looked like an elite center. And there was moments where there was moments where he looked like a dominant big man. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the Pistons are going to be just fine. Honestly, they just got to continue to chuck along. The future is promising, and I'm very happy for them. Honestly, it was an amazing series to push every game, and everything felt like a game seven. Every game felt like a game seven. And there were some really important calls that were missed that could have easily changed the trajectory, and they have nothing to be ashamed of. Honestly, it was just unbelievable year. You got to be satisfied as a first playoff victory at home since '08. Like there's just so many things to hang your hat on. So I really am happy for the Pistons. After that, just absolute nightmare of a season last year. No disrespect to the previous regime or administration, because the talent was there. Just couldn't understand why are they losing so much. Everyone felt this. It's not just myself, but the unanimous discourse regarding the Pistons was why are they so bad? And so kudos to them and congrats. And I only expect better things from here. I expect them to eventually be where the Cleveland Cavaliers are today as we speak. All right, Utopians, I hope this was informative. And to all you Detroit Pistons fans, the future is promising. Global out.